Well, Jonesy, as you mentioned there, mate, the perspective that a situation like Isla's brings everything into sharp focus immediately, doesn't it? And I was exactly the same the other day. I don't know about you, sort of when the news sort of broke, as crushingly sad as it was, it just made me feel grateful, really. Like, me and you get to do this. Like, same as you've got a lovely family, got some good friends, both enjoy what we do for a living. And it just makes, obviously, grumble and moan about things to each other most weeks before we actually hit record on the podcast. But yeah, it's just it certainly made me grateful for lots of the good things and sort of able to shift it into a bit of perspective, really, and how lucky we all are to be here for however long we get to live on the planet. And one thing it certainly does do, as you mentioned with the club rivalries, is bring into sharp focus the folly that is supporting a football team and it ruining your day, week, or month, or year, or life in certain cases. And on that note, we now have to talk about the transfer window and West Ham's complete shambolic dereliction of duty, lack of activity by bringing no players in to the thinnest squad ever when we're on the brink of the biggest achievement, some of the biggest achievements in the club's history. I was all geared up before, to be quite honest, for a right old rant, because we said, look, we'll leave the negativity until such a time where West Ham don't sign any players, but there is a huge chance that we will bring some bodies in. So let's leave it for now. We haven't brought any bodies in, but after the introduction to the podcast, of course, all of a sudden, I just don't care. I mean, I still care, but it just makes it feel a bit silly all of a sudden, doesn't it?
Yeah, following that by moaning about something so trivial like football and signings is a little bit weird, but
it's still a part of people's lives, isn't it, West Ham? So
it is.
Yeah, we've got to talk about it. But so look, you were the main one. I think I don't want to take credit away from you. So pull me up if you don't agree. But I think I was probably the ones tugging you back slightly, holding the reins a bit and saying, come on, mate, let's just leave it. Let's leave it. But I did promise you during those sentiments that if it came to a time where West Ham didn't spy anyone, that I'd let you off the leash as such, or loosen the reins a bit. So away you go, mate.
Well, I mean, I don't really know where to start, mate, if I'm honest. All morning, I've been trying to find the words to describe how I feel. And I've struggled to really find the words that truly reflect exactly how I feel about West Ham's transfer window, or lack of transfer window. There may as well have not been one.
Yeah.
Right? It didn't happen.
West Ham didn't have one. Some other clubs had one. Yeah, go on.
Go on. So I booted up dictionary.com,
nice.
Clicked over to Thesaurus,
yep.
Typed in confused, because that's kind of roughly how I feel.
Not confused.com. You didn't just get
no.
Like insurance comparison.
But it's a good shout. I probably need to do that as well.
I can do on my contents insurance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I needed to find some synonyms, because I was like, there's so many words. I don't know which is the right one. So I'm just going to use all of them.
Yeah.
So I'm baffled.
Yeah.
I'm befuddled. I'm bewildered. I'm dazed. I'm disorganized, distracted, muddled, perplexed, perturbed, puzzled, abashed, flummoxed. That's a good one.
A flummox.
And there's others here. I'm glassy-eyed, not with it.
Yeah.
I'm punch drunk with West Ham's transfer window. I'm at sea. I'm unzipped.
At sea, that's a brilliant one. Yeah. What else you got?
At 6s and 7s.
Yeah.
Thrown off balance, which I think is probably about right as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Slap happy.
So that's slap happy.
That's what it says here. Slap happy.
I'd leave the. We'll cut that one.
Yeah, but I think that you get the idea, mate. You get the idea.
See, that's surprising me, mate, because I like loads of them. At sea and flummoxed, I think we can all agree are top two there. I thought they were going to be along the lines of, and I'm going to have a crack at this. And I haven't got thesaurus.com in front of me, so know that these are just coming from the heart. So I'm going to go with apoplectic, furious, beside myself with rage, fuming, steaming at the ears, shuddering with rage. Yeah, I know I've done rage already. Have you got any more for me?
Livid.
I think livid. Yeah, livid's a good one. Yeah. Yeah. See, I normally try and be quite a positive person, so I'm not used to digging into these adjectives to describe the way I feel. Apoplectic is probably my favourite one. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right. But apoplectic with rage. I just, and that's why I'm surprised yours seem to come from a bit more of a I just don't understand. I just think it's just, I'm just angry, mate.
See, I'm beyond anger. I tweeted it on Sunday night.
Yeah.
I'm just really struggling with the fact that West Ham are going into the last 24 hours of the window having not signed a single player, given the size of our squad. And it went semi-viral. I think about 700 likes, 50 retweets.
Hang on a minute. Sorry, say that again.
What, semi-viral?
No. Sorry, I wasn't digging you out for your terminology. What was the tweet? I got a little bit distracted then trying to get some stats up in a minute. But
it was along the lines of, I'm really struggling with the fact that we're going into the last 24 hours of the window, having not signed a single player, despite the size of our squad, despite what we're going for.
Yeah.
Got a lot of engagement, a lot of fans. A couple of fans were like, "Oh, calm down, mate. Don't worry. Collect a car's on his way."
Whatever you tweet, people seem to just reply saying, "Calm down."
had one lad go, calm down, chap, which is always
that was a brilliant one. Yeah.
Passive aggressive. Don't collect a car's on his way, being done as we speak.
Yeah, waffle.
As far as I'm aware, he's still at Marseille.
Which bizarre. Which
is funny.
We got stuck in the Euro tunnel, mate.
Yeah, maybe, but and you've got other fans going, "Oh, it's GSB's fault." Some fans going, "It's Moyes' fault." I don't care whose fault it is.
No,
the fact is, for whatever reason, we've decided that strengthening what is probably the thinnest squad we've had in decades was not crucial in order to achieve what we want to achieve this season. Okay, they might have tried all those phantom bids for lots of Calvin Phillips, Rafinha, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I think Simon Jordan called it right on TalkSport and said, they're either making those bids just to make it look like they're doing something, or they're just saying they've made those bids and they haven't really made those bids. For the exact same reason, to make it look like they're doing something. I don't care whose fault it is. The fact is that we're trying to finish in the top four in a season where it doesn't really look like anyone wants to finish in the top four. Okay, Tottenham brought in a couple of players on deadline day, but no one knows how they're going to do. United didn't sign anyone. Desperate to keep hold
players. Right, even if they're fringe, Ogbonna was a fringe Juventus player, wasn't he?
Yeah, it turned out to be pretty good. Yeah,
of course. Yeah,
Arsenal let half their squad go, didn't sign anyone. So you look at it, go, this is our opportunity. Strengthen now, and top four could be ours. Or we give ourselves an even better chance than we've already given ourselves to finish the top four. We give ourselves a much better chance of going deep into the Europa League, potentially getting to a final and, maybe winning it and finishing and qualify for the Champions League that way. There's a real possibility of us doing that this season. However, how difficult it might be for a club like West Ham to do that.
Yeah.
The opportunity's there.
Yeah.
And we failed to really give ourselves a better chance. A lot of fans were saying, why risk signing a player and wasting money on him if he's not the right player? Well, sometimes when you get to a point where you have to take risks to alleviate the other risk, which is you take the risk on, signing a player that may or may not work out in order to alleviate the risk of having your season fall apart in the second half of the season because your squad's knackered. And not finishing in the top six, at least, at the very least. Now, we won't take that risk, but we're going to give ourselves an even bigger risk by allowing the other players to crack on for the rest of the season, even though they're absolutely shattered at this point.
Yeah, mate, well delivered. Well delivered.
Thanks.
I like that. That was an excellent monologue. You know what I say to anyone who, I don't say because I don't like to engage in Twitter arguments, basically. But what I always think to myself in an angry voice, so I'm probably giving it some to myself when I hear that about don't just sign anyone. First of all, that is just people not thinking for themselves and taking the sound bites that are fed to them by the club or by Moyes or whatever. Because Moyes' tagline has been, I don't want to buy players for the sake of it. Not a single West Ham fan was shouting that in Twitter arguments, parrot fashion, as if it was their own idea, which is basically all people do in Twitter arguments, is take someone else's thing they've heard or read and say it as if it's their own. No one was saying that before David Moyes rocked up and started saying it. Okay? No one was saying that at West Ham. No one was going, no fans were going, that's a good thing, actually, mate. Yeah, perhaps we shouldn't be signing players for the sake of it. No one was saying that. So, first of all, it's not an original idea you've had there. And you're just saying it to be facetious, I think. Secondly, you cannot... If that is true, if you take it as that someone actually believes that, then I think, well, what the hell sort of professional Premier League outfit has not been able to find a single footballer on the planet in the last 12 months who plays centre forward, who has got a legitimate chance, be it through Mikel Antonio's injuries, which he gets semi-regularly, or through his drops in form, which he also gets semi-regularly and happens to be slap bang in the middle of at the moment. Mm-hmm. What the hell? I'm with you, sort of. I've got an inkling, sort of who's a feeling, sort of from things I've heard and stuff, of whose fault it is, if there's anyone's. I do honestly think it's a combination. We'll get onto that in a bit. But what sort of professional outfit, professional Premier League club, even if you don't want to sign people just for the sake of it, why have you not been able to find a signing that isn't just for the sake of it in that time? You cannot tell me that there's not a player out there that would not be a just for the sake of it signing.
Especially
because if there isn't, then you're not looking in the right places and doing your jobs properly. That's what you're there for.
Especially 2 months after signing ahead of a recruitment, by the way, in Rob Newman.
Yeah.
Right? He came in, he was brought in specifically to avoid what's just happened.
Yeah.
To specifically avoid us going into a transfer window and I'm in an R in over a short list of players and not too sure. It's his job. He's the head of recruitment. It's his job to identify the players that aren't just for the sake of it signings, and the players that one, are good enough for West Ham, two, can strengthen West Ham, and three, are affordable and gettable players for West Ham in terms of the position that we're in at the moment.
I heard one report, mate. So on the Rob Newman thing. Sorry, I know you were just shaking. I wasn't sure if you were just quivering with anger or had something else to say.
I don't know what else to say. I don't know.
Just shuddering on screen. Goodness, if that's not worth going over to the We Are West Ham podcast on YouTube to see that clip, then I don't know what is. But I heard one report that suggested Newman put a list of players in front of Moyes. Now, again, I'm not sure of the validity of this. It's just something I heard. So that he put a list of players in front of Moyes and he was told that none of them were up to scratch, right? So fine. But as far as Rob Newman goes, and because me and you both in the last couple of weeks went on spoke to Justin. I think you might know him on Twitter, listening to Chicago Hammer on the West Ham Media Tour on the Hammers Polls YouTube channel podcast. And me and you both went on there, and I'm going to recycle a line that I used when he asked me about the transfers on Rob Newman. I'm happy to say I've used it before. So if you've listened to me on the West Ham Media Tour the other week, then I apologise. But Rob Newman arrived in October, and I don't know how long it takes at West Ham to get set up on the software, whatever software they use, to get yourself to get yourself a Gmail password and to find out where the coffee machine is and where the toilets are and where you can park and all the other things that are associated with getting a new job. I reckon generously, he could have his feet under the table within a week. Yeah. By the time he can turn up at work, Like nowhere to park his car, nowhere to lunches to put it, the fridges, excuse me, to put his packed lunch, nowhere he can make himself a tea and have a water, log into his computer and his company phone or whatever, and crack on with the task he's being paid a considerable amount of money to do. So give him a week. That leaves him at least the whole of November and the whole of December to have got ourselves. That's not even mentioning the so-called football professionals at the club whose role or part of their role is to identify and sign players for West Ham United to improve the club. That's 2 months to get ourselves in a position where by at least the beginning of January, we've got an idea. And even if, as does sometimes happen, West Ham's IT department is really not that up to scratch, and poor old Rob got there and he didn't have a laptop set up, so he had to wait a week for that. His company car wasn't ready for him. And, even if it took a bit of a while to get in, the passwords weren't working, he didn't know how to use the software, he needed to go on a couple of training days to sort of buy into the company ethos and all that, right? Even if you said that took a month, right? A month. Still another month. It just isn't an excuse. We're veering into the insulting fans territory again. And that's not a plan. And I think it's sort of so much more galling this time around because it's the first time I think we've had that under Moyes. One interesting thing I want to get your thoughts on, Jonesy. Daniel Kretinsky arrived not long ago. Plenty of fans were heralding that as the dawn of a new era, particularly in the transfer market / spending circle, if you like. He's wealthier by around 4 times than David Sullivan. He's worth about 4 billion quid to David Sullivan's 1 to 1.5. So 3 to 4 times wealthier. I know he hasn't got a controlling stake. I appreciate that. But there was a general sort of the implied PR line when he arrived was, I want to go and improve the team and I want to push on and, I'm here to improve West Ham. Well, implied. I said implied on purpose. And I just think I'm just interested because it's easy. Like it was the same old stuff, like people just blaming Gold, Sullivan and Brady, as has happened plenty of times in the past. I'm not adverse to that argument, but I think certainly this time there was more anti-Moyes sentiment and anti-Rob Newman sentiment for those who've heard of him. But there wasn't, from where I was sat, a single mention of Kretinsky. I just wonder what your thoughts were on that.
Well, in defence of Kretinsky, he did come out. It was a couple of days after he invested in the club, and it all gone through. And he did an exclusive interview with Jack Rosser.
Yeah,
in the Standard.
Evening Standard, yeah.
And he'd technically written a column. And he openly says in that column that, he's a fan of the way that David Moyes does business and that the club has done business since David Moyes has been at the club. And he literally, not so many words went, I just want to, get fans feet back on the ground and go, we're not going to spend big in January.
Right, no, but James, that's fine, mate. But spend big is not zero, is it?
Right. Well, this is it.
Big is like, we're not going to spend 100 million. Fine.
But this is it. I mean,
20 million on 2 players.
That's why I don't think we can aim much of the blame at Kretinsky just yet, because he did come out and go, look, we're not going to spend big. But
James,
we're not going to spend big.
Mate.
But then
polarized, isn't it?
But then you've got Moyes going right at the beginning of the window. I need to strengthen. I want to bring in a striker. I want to bring in a defender.
Moyes wanted players.
He wanted players.
On good authority, yeah.
100%. He come out publicly and said it. He definitely wanted to strengthen the squad. You've got these phantom bids, £50 million bids for players that we're just never going to sign, not even in the summer. Like, just no chance West Ham signing those players. No. So yeah, if anyone's to blame, it's GSB and Moyes. I don't think, and Rob Newman. I think also because he's not a majority shareholder. Yeah, okay, he's invested in the football club, and he would have gone. Here's a few quid for some players. In terms of
injected money into the club,
by
arriving, didn't he? Yeah,
here's a few quid for recruitment. But as he's not a majority shareholder, I very much doubt he's heavily involved in the final say on certain things involving, i.e., January transfers. Obviously, he'll be there
final say, mate. No, but
he'll have his input, and
he's got a lumpy old percentage, isn't he?
I'm pretty sure eventually we'll be raiding his club in the Czech Republic, which is Sparta, for one or two players. No doubt he'll be doing deals, but I don't know. I think it's too early to blame him. He's just arrived at a club. He's put the money there. Why have they not spent it? It's not down to him to spend it.
Well, nah, come on. Let's be realistic. It is. He's like a significant voice in the boardroom now.
Yeah, of course, but we don't know.
If you buy 27%, I believe it was. If you buy 27% of a business that where your say is weighted. I get that. I'm not saying he's got the final say, but
with the bulk of the transfer stories that we've been reading over the course of the last month, it's been West Ham are linked. West Ham are interested. Nothing solid beyond that, barring the Coletta Car thing, which apparently Marseille wanted to sell him outright. We were pushing for a loan to buy. In the end, Marseille just went, we're not doing a loan to buy. Which I'm sure they're pretty annoyed about, given that they're desperate for money. So that's why they wanted him to go outright. They've been doing a lot of financial problems. The others, no idea whether it was Moyes going, I'm not too sure until it's too late, or whether Moyes going, I need that player, and then very similar thing with the Coletta Car deal, going, yeah, but we're going to try and negotiate either a loan to buy or try and knock down the asking price a little bit, and that's why the deal falls through. We don't really know what the ins and outs are, apart from that Coletta Car, which is very, very heavily publicised as to why that deal broke down. But the others, that's why I'm finding it hard to really, really aim any blame towards Kretinsky, because we don't know how he operates really as a football club owner, whereas we know full well how both David Moyes operates in the market and how GSB operate in the market. So it's a lot easier to go, well, we kind of can see where this one's gone wrong. We can see who's messed up here. Whereas Kretinsky, you don't know. He may have just dumped a bag of cash on David Sullivan's desk and gone, right, say, spend that if you want it. Like, no one really knows.
Load of euros. I was going to say Czech rubles or whatever, but I think the days of them being a Soviet country are quite far in the past.
It's probably why we didn't spend the money, because he's a Czech rubles. It's probably why we couldn't spend it.
Sullivan's like, what the hell are these, mate? They've been out of circulation since 1994. Yeah. Nah, I don't know, mate. Right, okay, then. Let's just sort of to wrap it up. Because I definitely don't. I think any sort of one going out trying to pin 100% of the blame on one group or individual. So it'd be that the board, Moyes, Newman, whatever, right? We don't know too much of the dynamics of that, how it's all working behind the scenes now. I mean, whatever the details are, the results aren't particularly good, are they? They're already annoyingly infuriating. So just on, again, this is a bit of a futile exercise, but let's do it because, we're supposed to be content creators, aren't we? So I think if you take those four groups, right? So we'll just group them. You have Moyes, you got Newman, you got Bohr, Gold, Sullivan and Brady, or we'll say Board, but it's basically David Sullivan, isn't it? And then Kretinsky. Give me some percentages, apportion some responsibility as opposed to blame. Blame's a little bit of a thingy, but apportion responsibility for the farce that is, whilst West Ham are on the brink of the biggest or one of the biggest achievements, certainly of the modern era, that we've got a whole month with still only one right back turned centre forward as our striker, who's injury prone and is also going to fly to Jamaica every now and then. And a threadbare defence as well, and just haven't signed any players. Talk to me, give me some percentages.
I think you have to lump Moyes and Newman in the same bracket because they're a team. They're a team. They must be working together.
Right. Okay.
So regardless of whether David Moyes hasn't done his job or Rob Newman hasn't done his job, I think they've both got to be accountable as a team.
Okay.
I think you can separate Kretinsky from GSB because he's the newbie on that board. Yeah, okay, he's come with significant investment, but he's the newbie. I would say I'm going to say 50% GSB,
Right.
40% Moyes and Newman, 10% Kretinsky.
Blimey. I don't know if you're just trying to get in old Danny Kaye's good books, but are you open to get him on the show? If so,
Yeah.
you'll have to interview him on.
100%, mate. Yeah, get him on. Daniel, if you're listening, he's definitely listening. Of course he's listening.
If
Love to have you on, mate.
Yeah. I would also like to have you on, but mainly so I can explain why I think you're more to blame than James does. West Ham not signing anyone. I don't know, mate. I think if you're a $4 billionaire, it's not a word, is it? But multi-billionaire probably works.
Yeah, that would do. Yeah.
But all right, if you're worth £4 billion, I think you've probably been in enough business meetings in your time.
But he does own another football club, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So It's not like he's sort of getting used to how things work. It's like he's done transfers before. He's sat on boards and made decisions over recruitment. I don't think we needed to let him off this one. I think he was part of it, but I understand he is curtailed by his lack of control in ownership. So okay, I don't know. I don't really know, mate. I know that Moyes wanted players. I'm not certain as to the validity of that report I already mentioned, where Newman gave him a list of targets. I know we were sort of having a bit of a joke about it, but I genuinely don't think he's new to the role. He come with an impressive CV, Rob Newman. I know we were larking about and saying what's he been doing, but it's unfathomable that he hadn't been doing his job quickly. And he's got contacts to tap into. It's not going to take a while to get going. It's unfathomable that he hasn't done his part of the process, to me. Do you know what I mean? So how much did you give him? You clubbed him together with Moisey, didn't you? Which complicates it for me. So I'm going to completely ignore the fact that you've done that. I'm going to say Robbie Newman gets 10. I was going to go a bit lower than that, 7, but I can't be bothered to do the maths. So we'll go 10 for Robbie Newman. And I'm going to go. I'm just going to go 20 for. 25 for Kretinsky, I think. Because 25's harsh. Right, 20 for Kretinsky, because I do appreciate as well. He can't be steaming in going, right, we need to sign this player. People hate that trait in an owner. So I'm going to go Kretinsky just because I think previously I had some high hopes for him shaking things up a bit and would have a different transfer window. 20 for Kretinsky, 10 for Robbie Newman, which is 30. And then I'm going to say, that leaves me with 70. I'm going to go 40 GSB and 30 David Moyes. Just because, especially towards the end of the transfer window, the trademark transfer reports came out, didn't they? From the same old people as well. Again, I'm not criticizing, because we work in the industry, mate, as well, and people have sources. What people watching these things, be it Sky Sports or Talk Sport or reading the papers or online, whatever it is. Journalists for these organisations have contacts across the game, right? What often happens, you tend to have journalists whose sources tend to be agents, and you have those whose sources tend to be within the clubs. You obviously have a variety, and plenty of journalists have both. But what you find is through, and I'm not going to name any names, but people will know who I'm talking about listening. It's quite clear, certainly as far as West Ham transfer news goes, to establish which journalists have board side sources. Yeah, within the owners or the board. I'm not saying it is the owners, but club side sources. And understandably, if you're going to relationships with journalists, they don't want the agent side coming out, do they? They want any news that gets released to their contacts, the journalists they know. They want it to paint West Ham in a favourable light. Understand that would be true of all clubs as well. I think there's different ways of doing it about it, and perhaps making it a little bit less transparent when it's the same faces wheeling out the same sort of news and going. The amount of like journalists you hear, mate, going, "Oh, West Ham are trying really hard." It's like, leave it out, mate. You know, just write a column for the West Ham website if you're going to do blatant PR like that. Do you know what I mean? So, West Ham are really, really trying hard to sign some players. Give us some names. Give us some detail on where the deals are at. Some numbers, like you normally get. Do you know what I mean? If you're talking to agents, you get a lot more detail, and a lot more detail in the stories come out. And this is where we're at now, because the agents want the deal to go through, so they want the information to be in the public domain. So there's like the fan pressure builds, and it builds pressure on the other party they negotiate with. You never get that from the same old suspects, do you? It's just like, West Ham are really, really trying hard. And then 50 million quid for Calvin Phillips. Pull the other one. I mean, there's still some question about whether it was an official bid or not, but £50 million for Calvin Phillips, England's number one central midfielder, like out after or alongside Declan Rice. He's like integral to everything Leeds are, and has been the last however many seasons. They're on the verge of going down, and you reckon 50 million quid is going to prize a bright young English central midfielder away from a club with 4 months to go in the season on the brink of going down? It's like, what? And again, obviously they didn't think that, and it's just one of those stories that goes out. So people go, oh, we're going for Calvin Phillips. That's a big move. It's not. That's not a serious move for Calvin Phillips, is it? Really? How much would you pay for Calvin Phillips in this window that would have priced him away?
Well, I mean, he would have
easy 20 million more than that.
Yeah, he would have cost at least 70, 80 million quid. And even then, that would have been probably, I think even Leeds may have ummed and ahed over that still because of the situation that they're in.
I reckon 80 would have done it. Yeah, 70 might have been, that's a lot. But
yeah, but I mean, if that bid was real, then it was very, very obvious what West Ham are trying to do. They're spending the Declan Rice money and replacing Declan Rice for the summer. Like, there's absolutely no way we signed Calvin Phillips and we have Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice in the midfield for the next 5 years. Like, it's so obvious what that deal represents.
Maybe I was just being a bit naive, thinking, I was like, Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice.
I mean, it sounds brilliant, but it's it's absolutely, particularly if we don't finish in the top four or qualify for Champions League.
Just like sign the whole England team.
Yeah, we'll just
become Harry Kane, Jordan Pickford. No, right?
No, maybe not. But like, so obvious what that deal represents. Similar with Rafinha and Bowen. Like, Bowen leaves in the summer, which is
behave. Don't start.
Like,
I'm not getting into this now.
You can obviously, mate, we will return to this conversation in about 6 months' time. But you could kind of see what they were representing as deals. But the fees involved, or the fees that we've been told were involved, were insulting to Leeds.
Well, don't even insulting. Just like, don't waste my time with a phone call. If that was a phone call that was made, but what are you emailing me with 50 million quid for?
That's why
I've got more important things to do.
That's why I question whether they were actual bids.
No, of course, but that's for mate. That's where the talk goes again, and it's just boring. So nothing of substance has happened again, and that's where the frustration comes from. It's a complete lack of substance, isn't it? You know, Bowen and Souček arrived, and Lingard in January before, and it's like so clear the boost that gave the team. Mm-hmm. It's like it's there on paper, and you haven't done it. That's what it boils down to. Have you got any more to say on it, mate? Because I'm just, especially you telling me Rice and Bowen are going in the summer. That is not what I needed right now.
I don't think it's. I think it's very feasible to accept the fact that both of them will go, at least one of them. But the fact is, we went into this transfer window needing two key players, a striker and a centre half. They were the two key players that we needed. Kaleta could have come if they could be bothered to pay the 18 million quid that Marseille wanted. Right, 18 million pounds, and they were trying to negotiate. So we're told.
Which is less than Souček.
Which is less than Souček, less than Bowen, less than Zuma, for crying out loud. Anyway. And then you've got we need a backup striker. Ideally, someone that can come in, help Antonio out, give him a bit of a rest, come off the bench and try and change a game, be a little bit different to Antonio. You've got literally the definition of backup Premier League striker sitting at Liverpool in Divock Origi.
Oh, Divock Origi, mate, I
Right?
know.
Like,
That has infuriated me, that.
his name is Divock backup Premier League striker Origi for a reason.
Yeah.
Right? And he's been
What
offered
do you
around.
specialise in, mate? Being a backup Premier League striker to teams who need one.
Exactly. And this is also a guy that's played in the Champions League, scored in Champions League finals, right? He's been there, seen it and done it. He's a very good striker. Came off the bench for Liverpool against us earlier this season, scored.
Brilliant
Right?
goal.
Superb goal, really good finisher. Would love him. I'd have him as our first choice if Antonio was at the club, but he's a backup striker, right?
Yep.
And he's been offered around by Liverpool yesterday on loan. No one takes him. Why aren't we going, right, we're getting bloody desperate now. Like, let's just bring him in. He's a backup striker. He's done it against us.
James.
As
Desperate.
we are desperate, mate, for a striker.
So, mate, come on. It's only been a year since we've
18 months since we last signed the striker. Like,
yeah, it's only been a year since Haller left, mate. I think desperate is a bit harsh.
I mean, it just baffles me that they've not gone. Okay, he's not the type of striker that we're really looking for. But if it's a loan deal until the end of the season, for crying out loud, just do it.
I know. Honestly, what do you mean he's not the type of striker we're looking for? He's pretty good. Like, he's pretty good. Just sign him.
Things. He doesn't fit the tactics or whatever.
What the hell are you talking about? You're telling me Antonio does all the time. No,
if he's coming off the bench for the last 15 minutes of the majority of the games he's going to play for us, right, with the sole purpose of trying to score a goal, which he does almost every game for Liverpool when he comes off the bench, right? He's perfect for our system. But you just know that the reason why we didn't sign him or wasn't interested in signing him is because he didn't fit the system. He weren't going to sign him for the sake of it. And that's the thing that really has confused me out of all the entire window is why on earth did we not go up to Liverpool and go, we'll have him. We'll have him.
I just phoned, but yeah, I assume you're
Well, I mean, whatever. Just rock up.
Sullivan.
Just rock up at Melwood. Yeah, just rock up at Melwood. Yeah.
Sorry, Divock, come on. You come back.
Here, mate.
Yeah.
We'll get you an Uber back down there. But, I don't know. That's the thing that's really. I can't remember what word to use there. No, just confused. I just don't know why we haven't tried to get that deal done.
Yeah. So, one thing, right? So you're telling me because he doesn't fit the system. Am I right in suggesting that?
Well, no, I'm not saying that. But
no. Sorry. Yeah, I know you're not saying it. Sorry, that's why we didn't sign him.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting then that West Ham are currently in the market as far as striker goes, as someone who came to or started out their career as a right winger, played right back for a lot of it, gets injured quite a lot, and may decide to go and play for a nation that he's never played for, that are at least an 8 to 9 hour flight away semi-regularly? Is that why? Because Divock Origi hasn't got any of those, what some people may call flaws or drawbacks, because he's just played as a centre forward his whole career, and only plays for Belgium. People are like, oh, that's a bit too convenient. That's not really that farcical and laughable, is it? So better not touch that one.
Yeah. I don't know, mate. I mean,
I've had enough, mate.
I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know why Divock Origi wasn't good enough for David Moyes and West Ham. Like, the guy scores goals for fun off the bench for one of the best, literally the best team in Europe. Like, why?
Let's just have a quick one then. Yes or no, mate? I heard the other day. Benteke, yes or no?
I mean, I probably would have taken him at 10 o'clock last night.
Me too, mate. Definitely would. People will laugh about it or whatever, but definitely. Just give him a shot. He can't be any worse than Antonio's been recently, and it's better than, like, people go, oh, Bowen can play up front. It's like, yeah, but he's playing so well in his position. Why
change it?
Force yourself to have to move him. Anyway, I'm proper fed up with this already, mate.
Just one last one.
Go on.
Worth saying. I saw this report earlier. It made me chuckle, and it did make me think, I can just see us doing it. Diego Costa's still a free agent,
mate. I saw that.
And I can just see us. I can see us doing it. I mean, literally, the Premier League's original bastard to play for West Ham.
Yes, please. I would love that. Yeah,
definitely want it.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Right. We're done on the transfer section. It's a very